What is up, everybody? It's me, Duke Farley, back at it again here on Lost at Sea, and I am talking to this season's second juror of Ascendance Live, Kira. A lot of practice for me over the past couple of podcasts getting the pronunciation of that correct. But Kira, thank you so much for joining me. How are you? How have things been going since we last spoke?
Yeah, no, they are going well. Last we spoke, it was prior to taking off to Ascendance, but it wasn't too far away from Ascendance starting. So it was quite a fun and interesting journey. I really appreciate the work you put into saying my name. It's a tricky one. It happens all the time. I'll answer to Bob. It doesn't matter to me too much, but I appreciate it. And work's been great. Has some changes. Things are getting ready to roll up. We're getting ready to start our summer season, so it's getting fun.
That'll be exciting. That's at the amusement park, right?
Yeah, it's the water park down in North Carolina, so we're getting
Nice.
ready to throw people in some pools.
That's always fun. That's always
Yeah.
fun. Um, Kira, when we spoke, it was pretty short notice that you got the call to, go and play on the season.
Mm.
So I remember asking a question, what are you doing to prepare? Did you get to watch any of the prior seasons before going? Like how
Yeah,
fresh was it for you?
I mean, it was pretty fresh, but I didn't get to see everything. So I got like a small snapshot of what I was going to be getting myself into. So literally the majority of my prep work was in the pantry right before, when they were like sequestering us so that we didn't meet each other prior to meeting each other in the game.
Mhm.
When we all walked in, I was in the pantry. I was hanging out on my phone watching some seasons, not seasons, a couple episodes.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly the one that I watched, at least like the challenge that I kept like replaying was hierarchy because I was freaking lost.
That's a
I
good one
don't,
to that's a good one to look at.
yeah, no, it really is. Because if you haven't played that game before, you're kind of going into it with like not really sure what the how to play, right? Um, and it does have a lot of moving cogs in it, and if you're only focusing on what your players your character, like your animal, what their successions are, then you may not know who's coming to get you.
It ended up working out for you because I believe you won. You were
Yeah,
saved.
I did win safety for it. It worked out great. I think we came up with like a pretty solid plan in the first. I think I went to the forest first, and the group of us there, I think it was five of us: Ollie, Marcelo, CJ, Emily, and myself. I think we kind of came up with a pretty solid game plan of like, okay, just come back to here every other round. I had to go to Sky, and the first time I went to Sky, I was by myself, twiddling my thumbs. They didn't show it,
Not a
but
bad
I
thing.
I know they did show me kind of just like sitting there in awkwardness and just like okay, but I did give a little like sneak peeks into what my game was that was missed, but you know it was pretty cool. And then the second time, um I'm with Rocky, and I'm like, I think CJ and I had talked about it before because it was just me and him back at the river. And oh yeah, it was a river, not the forest. And he was like, yeah, Rocky's definitely going to be there. And I was like, oh man, I think Rocky's going to have to eat me. And then one of the first things that I say to Rocky when I sit down is like, do you have to eat me? And he goes, well, he looks at his thing and says, I ate last round, I think I'm good. And I say,
He
okay,
wasn't.
talk about game. you know um and then all of a sudden we hear that Rocky unfortunately has died, and I was like, me and him look at each other like, what? So it was kind of like a luck of the draw on my end and not on Rocky's, unfortunately. But
Yeah, you dodged a bullet on that. That seems to happen almost every season. We play that game in the org, and somebody always fucks the rules up. So it was good that it worked out for you, though.
yep, I mean, production does try to warn you, but
Yeah, they
like
do.
I said before, there's so many different moving pieces that you have to like keep in mind.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, just was it what you expected? Because I know that you were unfamiliar going in, but was it what you expected? Just like the overall game mechanics and what Ascendance kind of is. It's not really typical Survivor, right?
No, yeah, and Survivor is kind of more what like I think I probably have more experience or knowledge in, whether it's the LRG that I played in Survive or just watching the show itself. You can't there's not like a show out there that you can watch several seasons of Ascendance. It's Ascendance, you know, and it's its own gameplay. And like I said before, I didn't have much time to catch up. But I think in terms of like, was it a surprise? Yes, it was a pleasant surprise, I think. I think from the small bit that I was able to prepare and like learn up on Ascendance, I was able to have a pretty good idea. And thankfully, like some of the players in the game were more than willing to like, if I had questions, they would kind of like give me an idea. Keaton was one of those players. Obviously, he had played before, and he was kind of playing the role of like, you know, I've been here, done that. Like, I'll kind of tell you what I'm thinking when they say this, and I'm like, oh, okay. So, and that helps me even in the game itself. But yeah, I have a huge love for Ascendance now that I've been a part of it. I can't wait to watch future seasons. You know, the mini itself was awesome, just getting to meet all those other players because after Ascendance and I had left, the whole experience, I watched more of season one and the rest of season two. And since then, and it's really great stuff. So it's also really cool to meet those people.
Yes, everybody has been so much fun to talk to over those seasons. But I want to get into some game this season, some game questions for you.
Get into it.
Uh, I want to first start off with I wanted to ask specifically what was your relationship with CJ coming into it because it was sort of a storyline, right? You guys knew each other from a past game.
Mhm.
But from what I could piece together from the edit, you guys were not on the same tribe that you played in the first game and were in a long immunity or buyback challenge, right?
Correct. So I had not met CJ prior to when we like I guess I'll really like kind of bring it down to the nitty gritty. We
Sure.
were playing in Survive McHenry, which great game. If you're looking for a really awesome Survivor game, check them out.
That's located where? McHenry.
McHenry, Chicago.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal game. Like for first live game to have been a part of that, and that was their first game that they put on. Like the fact that it was just their first game that they put on, period, was impressive.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what they do next. Now, you know, we get there and people are getting there at different times, and I was probably one of the first people to get there with two other people that had flown in, and um you know, I think the next person to show up is CJ. And we're all kind of just sitting there and we're chatting. And then we didn't know that, like, we were told we can't talk game, but like we can just like chat a little bit, right? And then the host comes up, Keith, and is like, hey guys, don't talk. And I was like, oh, okay. But we had kind of connected already, you know, so we were just
Mhm.
like laughing and joking and stuff. And it turned out that we were on different tribes. So actually there was like four of us right there, and we both got split up two and two, right? So I was with Charles and CJ was with oh my gosh. But anyway, so we
Watch the
are
season and find out.
yeah, watch the season and find out. So we're playing through, and I get voted out second. I got really excited in Survive of like the whole camping outdoors, building a shelter, making fire. I was having a fun camping trip. I think I forgot about the strategizing and alliances. So
Yeah.
I was talking to people and being personable, but you know, and I made some fumbles myself in just maybe talking to not the right people in the first vote that or in the second vote that we had to come around to. So inevitably I get voted out by my tribe. No harm, no foul. And I walk out, I'm like, dang, man, it didn't last long. And then they tell me I can battle back. So I'm waiting and to battle back into the game, and all of a sudden, so I was the second person voted out. Charles was the first person voted out. The next person is CJ, right? So then we had another person who's Tammy. voted out. We're already clicking again and talking. CJ's telling us all this stuff that had gone on in the other tribe and feeding me information about like who has the idol, which was Angela, which I don't know why I forgot the name. It was a brain fart, but Angela was the other female that I was talking about earlier that went with CJ. So she found an idol within the first moments of the game, which is super cool. And now that I know that, that's great. Fast forward, we're at the battle back. And the premise of the battle back is that there are these stumps on the ground. Like they came over and they like measured our heights and everything to so that all of our stumps were at like a equal playing field. And then there was a pole in the center. It felt like Real Survivor. They had tiki torches. They had a massive bonfire going. All the people that are still in the game have no idea this is happening. And so the rules of the game at that point are that you need 1 foot on the stump at all times. You cannot change that foot. You can take your foot, if this is the stump, you can take your foot and you can go on the side of your foot, you can go into the toe of your foot, but you cannot lose contact. And then your other foot has to be on the ground, but you can maneuver it if you want. It does not have to stay firmly planted on the ground. So we're going through and we're having a good time, nothing's too painful yet, and they're not telling us how much time lapses. And the person that I was on the tribe originally with, Charles, we're like joking about Pokemon and Dungeons and Dragons and just nerding out, right?
Mm.
You can already see that people are kind of starting to struggle. I don't think I moved very much at all for the entire challenge. I was and did I want to move? Did I want to get relief? Sure, but I was almost like playing like that mind game also, like saying, well, if they're moving around, I need to not move around so that it discourages them in their head. Anyway, that might be thinking too much into it. So next, probably some time lapses and the first person goes out. So this pole in the center, you can hold on to it if you want. I was opting not to hold on to it to hold posture, but everyone was kind of like leaning on it, trying to take their weight off. CJ being one of them. And so the first person, Tammy, she ends up bowing out and she says, see you later. And then they have us put our hand on the pole. And so now we have 1 point of contact on the pole with one hand, foot on the stump, and then foot on the ground. And so then we're there for some time. And after a long period of time, they have us hold with both hands. And then so 2 hands on the pole, 1 foot on the stump, 1 foot on the ground. And Charles tried his best and he makes a slip. None of us even catch it. And he, had the honor to kind of just like say, hey, my foot came off. I'm gonna, step away. And so hat off to him for that. And then it's me and CJ. And we're holding on and this whole time, like we are going through it. We're talking, we're trying to keep each other motivated. And CJ is visibly upset. He wants us so bad. And as do I. But like you can see it on him and he's showing his emotions. And I really felt for him. And I think that is really where our relationship started to really coincide and bond. And he was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna have to step off. And I said, no, you're freaking not. You're staying on. So I mean, the fact of the camaraderie through that was that we wanted to push each other to our limits. We wanted to see how long we could do this. Regardless, we were going to be happy with whoever won because we knew we gave it 110%. And so then, and it's so funny because one of the games that we were playing while we're on this stump for so freaking long, so it started at 7 p.m. And at this point, like I can start seeing like the light coming up, like the sun's getting ready to come, right? Obviously, it's not like super bright, but it's gone from pitch dark to like I can see it on the horizon. So, they have us hold a bucket, right? So they now add another rule. 1 hand on the pole, 1 hand on a bucket full of water, 1 foot on the stump, 1 foot on the ground, right? They're like, can we please just have this over? And so we're playing this game of like all the tiki torches around us. Which one do you think is going to go out first? And at this point, they're running out of fuel to keep the tiki torches running. And again, we keep motivating each other and like we're getting personal and talking about ourselves and what we've gone through. And again, just like super bonding moment, honestly. And then from my understanding, I was really focusing in on myself at that point. I really wasn't looking too much at him. But I guess he went to like maneuver his hand or his sleeve because he had a long shirt on, and the handle of the bucket like slipped down his wrist. Whereas the rule in the game was it has like you have to hold it with your hand. It can't be on your wrist or on your forearm. And so that is what ended up taking him out of the challenge and me winning the battle back. They tell us that it was like about 8 hours and some change. And we were just like, I couldn't even like walk straight. My hand that was holding the bucket was like a vice. It was so grip tight. And you know, we were all upset, obviously, like the people who didn't get to carry on. We gave each other hugs, we consoled each other, and then we went to bed. And then it was time for me to enter back into the game the next day. Um, so yeah, I ended up getting out the next round because I rocked out. But
Jeez.
hey, I rocked out, so it is what it is. um, but yeah, and then post that game, and so then we're on pre-jury together, and we're hanging out, and now we're just trying to be lively and happy. People brought board games, we're playing board games, and we're just having such a great time. Really, again, fun with CJ even more and more and more as that time went on, and we've kept in touch from then till now. And especially like speaking of before coming into the game, and you know, we'd snap each other, we would talk back and forth, and I don't know, like I CJ is an amazing person, and he's gone through a lot in life, as have I, and you know, it was nice to talk to someone who, and he's younger than I am, and it felt like I was talking to a younger brother, like it felt like a brother bond. So yeah, no, I have a huge love for CJ, and you know, I think we definitely really bonded through the experience of Survive. And so coming into this game, when I saw him, and I think I don't want to speak for him, but I think when he saw me, like I was just super elated. Like I was really happy to see him there, and I was like, wow, okay, I know I have someone in my corner who, you know, we're gonna want to. Again, I'm thinking back to that moment on the stumps. We're gonna motivate each other. We're gonna keep each other level headed through the game.
Right. What that was a great response. A lot to unpack there. But I will have questions about CJ, obviously, during, your
Yeah,
vote out.
we'll get
But
there. I didn't
we'll
want
get
to
there.
do too much. I knew it was a lot, but I really wanted to make sure like people know like it wasn't just like a game that we played for a little bit and you know we bonded a little bit. It was like, and I don't want to speak for how he feels about me within that time frame, but I don't know. Yeah, I really had a lot of love for him.
Yeah, and I can imagine that, 8 hours in such a, vulnerable state there, you know, can
Yeah.
definitely bond two people together.
Literally crying on my shoulder, right? And of course, in my head as the game player, I want him to step off, I want him to lose. But as the person in myself, I also I want to win against someone who gave it their all, you know. So I'm pushing him to do everything that he can, and I'm pushing myself to give it everything that I can.
Yeah. Um, I want to now talk to you about the kind of opening rounds of the game of Ascendance Live. You were safe for a majority of them. Either your team won, you won captain, you mentioned hierarchy, you had won during that. So the vote that you get voted out, the only time that you were vulnerable, there was one other vote, right? Where it was actually a revote with Billy and Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was that intentional on your part? Did you want, I mean, obviously team wins aren't, always intentional, but did you think that maybe being safe, not, let me rephrase this question. You being safe so early on, right? Do you think that that hurt you or helped you in terms of like integrating yourself with voting with people?
I think it helped me in the sense that I didn't really have to create much bad blood or really show my alliance. Like I didn't have to prove my alliance-ship as much, right? It's not like it was going to come down to we want you to vote this way, and and I had to prove that I was going to vote that way. And I think with like kind of, I think my strategy, and we talked about this before I went in, and I the one thing I'm really proud of is I think the strategy that I said I wanted to have going in, I think I was able to do that. I was kind of just like going with the flow of the game and with the people, and I came in specifically that first round, and I tried to mute myself a little bit because I can be out and loud and in your face a little bit sometimes. I tried to kind of bring that down, see where everybody else is at, and find my space where I fit into this group, not just as me as an individual. And in terms of like playing challenges, I can't. I'm a competitive person. I can't not want to win, right? And I think it did add a level to my threat, but I think that I was able to not seem as threatening as AJ, for example. I had AJ was safe every single time except I think for the one time that he went out. I was safe every single time except for the one time where Billy went out when Ali decided to say my name, but AJ actually shot it down, and so that wasn't going to come to fruition. Um and then obviously on the round that I did go out in. I think that the the way that I played in terms of winning, especially it being team based, I was able to hide a little bit in that it was a team challenge. It wasn't just me. The one I
Mhm.
couldn't hide very much in was the one where Keaton and I were throwing the water bottle because it was me and him. And to be honest with you, that was the one challenge that I wasn't sure, and I honestly really didn't want to win it because you know, not because it's Keaton specifically, but at that point in time, Keaton was like man number one that people wanted to get out. And when so they tell us what the chat well they tell us that we're going to be doing a challenge where you need a partner. In just a moment we're going to let you pick your partners, and so they do that, and immediately Keaton comes up to me and says, "Hey, can I talk to you?" and brings me in a completely other room separated from everybody else. And I'm like talking to him, and I'm trying to get through the conversation so I can get back to see what everybody else is doing, because I don't want people now thinking that I am aligned with him because he felt so comfortable to take me to the side, and I obviously went with him, right? Then by the time we walked back in, because I was telling him, yeah, no, I'd be down to work with you and play this challenge with you, but I want to see what everyone else is doing. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody else. And we walk back in, and everyone's already picked their partners, and so I'm like, hey, bud, I guess we're doing it. And
And you
um
did it.
and we did do it. I even tried to match my pace with AJ, who was next to me, so I could at least make sure I wasn't going too fast, and we weren't going to win by a large margin. But where Keaton was standing, I couldn't even see where we were at with the water bottle. And we just had both really great strategies of containing the water, and I think he had an optimal strategy and how to squeeze the water bottle out in that vertical um, fashion. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question in one sentence, I don't think that it hurt my game. I think I was still able to have conversations and talk to people, but I also made sure that I wasn't talking in every single vote because I didn't want people thinking I was just trying to gather information. Most of the time people would come and tell me the information once everything was said and done, and we were like not going into a next challenge or something.
Right. And I think you did a great job of that.
Thank you.
Kira, I want to go into this past episode where, shit goes down. But I wanted to ask you before we talk about the vote, obviously huge power brought into the game, public box that people can I guess look at. I want to ask you how, because I don't know if we kind of totally understand how you were able to open the box. I know that there was something in the window panes that was lighted blue. Can you kind of just run through how exactly you figured that out and how you opened the box?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was this window that was illuminated with a blue light, and there were these tiles. And on these tiles were arbitrary dots. And um they didn't make one full picture, but if you think of it, like if you think of a digital clock that kind of has like the dashes, we ended up figuring out, I didn't know it at the time, but after I tried to like lay them over on top of each other and I thought it might tell me like a number sideways or something. It's like, no, that's not working. And then I think it was Ozzy that even said that one of them was like, I don't think I remember the numbers exactly, but let's just say it's 7. And he goes, "Oh, I think that's a 7. Obviously, there's some dots missing, but the way he's looking at it, he's like, oh, that's a 7." And then that kind of sparked into my mind, oh, okay, so now I just have to like make my assumptions and narrow it down. So, um, it was like 7, and then in the center there was like a ton of dots, so I assumed it's either going to be like a 9, a 6, or an 8. And so I was pretty confident with 8, just because it has more dots in general. And then on the last one was, I think it was a 2. And it was at the bottom left corner, there was kind of like a curve to it, which made me think that it was either going to be a 2 or some other number that I can't remember right now. And so I just remember standing in line, and of course CJ's there just like messing with him and seeing like 1, 2, 3, and going through the list of it. And then Josh goes and he does his guess and it's not right. And then I get up there and I click in my numbers, and I pulled on it, and I remember like pulling on it and I was like, oh. And I think in reflection, because I didn't think that I needed an idol. I mean, I know that's probably like a too confident statement to make, but I didn't think I needed it at that moment, especially in the way that I found it in terms of everybody seeing me have it. If I had found an idol that nobody knew that I had, completely different story. Of course, I would want it, but this one I didn't really want. I think people probably saw it on my face too. I'm not the best at hiding my emotions, but I opened it and I was like, oh, and then I was like, okay, because we didn't know it was an idol, right? We knew it was going to be an advantage of some sort, and so I open it and then I see it's an idol. I'm like, well, and then everyone's coming around and asking me, oh, how'd you do it? How'd you find it? And I'm trying to explain it to them in a, in a way that doesn't make them think I'm like super great at puzzles. I just like finding the answer to puzzles, in that moment. It's funny, I don't think I was like trying to figure out what was inside. I was just trying to see if I was right and if I like fix the puzzle, almost as if I was in an escape room. um but yeah, it was a great puzzle. I thought it was super fun. I wish I was smarter with holding it and using it in retrospect, but you know, it is what it is.
If you could go back, and you could get the satisfaction of opening, like knowing that you were right, but somebody else opening the box, and getting the power, would you have done that?
The thing is I knew who was around me, and CJ and Josh were in front of me. They had just gone. Sarah and Marcella were behind me. So I think I also probably took it because I wasn't very aligned with Sarah. I didn't have anything against her, but we had never really talked game or anything. And I was like, maybe I don't want her to have it. And I think in just like a very split decision, instead of closing it back up, I said, well, I've opened it. Some of them may even have seen me open it. Like they were standing all over me, when it clicked open, they may have seen it. I was like, I might as well just take it at this point. But if all that out of the picture, I think I would have closed it and walked away and not have taken the advantage. Um, yeah. If like
Yeah.
the assumption to everybody else was, oh, she just got it wrong.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's always interesting because this was in season 1, the box. I'm sure you've seen that. And it was a mad chase. You could actually take the box and run around the house with it.
Oh,
Um,
we know that if that was the case, CJ would have taken it, and if he couldn't figure it out, he'd throw it on top of the roof or something. I
was there anybody there that was just like, let's break into it?
not that I remember. I don't think anyone specifically said let's break into it. At least not around me. But
I feel like
I'm sure someone, there's a couple people who probably would have wanted to.
Kira, earlier in the season I post kind of like power watch list of everybody's powers. And I made a mistake during one of them, and I remember Rory thought he was going to be voted out, I think, at one of the eliminations and passed you a reveal the vote power. Um, and I was wrong again. I think that power is still in the game somehow. So can you explain the handling of the power, how you got it, and I guess when did you give it up at some point?
Yeah, so I did give it up. If you remember in the episode that aired when I get out, when Red Team is running around hijacking Ozzy, and Rory at one point feels nervous, and so he's walking around with it on his chest.
Right.
So let's back up a little bit, and I'll talk about how I got it. So Rory found it himself. I can't remember exactly how oh, I do remember how he found it. It was me, him, and one other person. I want to say it was AJ that were just walking around together. I think it was like in the morning, maybe we were getting in line to brush our teeth in like the upstairs bathroom across from uh the laundry room.
Good on
And
you guys for brushing your teeth in the morning.
you got to take care of your teeth. And
Yes.
so it was in like a bowl on the shelf on the left hand side near the fireplace. And Rory, of course, was kind of just like looking and things. And, oh, and he's like, I have something. And so he puts it in his pocket, and he goes, don't worry, we'll use it together. It's with us. And I was like, great, great, I love that. And so it fast forward, we're getting to Erica's vote, and he is coming up to me like, Kira, it's me. I'm going out. And I know he's not. And I'm like, no, you're good, chill, bro. Like, it'll be fine. I swear. And he goes, no, like, I really think I'm going out. And I didn't know what his relationship with Erica was. And me and him hadn't talked like a ton. I think we had created a bond enough where like obviously he trusted me. A, I knew about the advantage, and B, when we're sitting down at elimination, me and him are sitting next to each other. I'm wearing my purple flannel, and I just feel like movement on my right side, and he's literally putting the advantage into my pocket folded up. And like I like, at least I don't know for sure obviously, but like at least from the conversations that I was in and that I had heard through the grapevine, he wasn't going to be going home. It was going to be Erica. And love Erica to death, but also that was probably better for my game. Because her and I hadn't really talked much game at that point. And so he's visibly upset and stuff. And even after the fact, we get together at one point, and I was like, hey, like, if you need me to give this back to you right now, I can. And he said, no, it's okay. I trust you. Hold on to it. In terms of, I think that's him trying to build trust with me. And I'm like, great. I am also trying to build that trust with you, but now I have an advantage if I want to use it. And also I think like he was thinking every single round from that point on, like, oh, it's me. Oh, I can't tell you how many times he was like even going up to a challenge, and like the one where we were running around with the water bottles, he's like, Kira, we have to win, because if we lose, it's me. And I mean, honestly, he could be right about that. We don't know because it didn't happen. But
He was wrong. He was wrong most of the time for those.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? Some people, and listen, if maybe I was thinking a little bit more about, oh, it could be me,
Yeah.
maybe we wouldn't be sitting here, and maybe you'd see
Not
me
not
further
yet
down
at
the
least.
line,
Yeah.
or at the final seats. Who knows? But eventually, like during that round, I'm trying to talk to the people in my group, when this is now the round that I get voted out. And he comes up to me and like grabs me. He goes, I need the advantage. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening right now? Because all I hear is them going wild upstairs. I've tried to go into the pantry like a couple times to get Ozzy, but they're like, nope, we're talking to Ozzy. I'm like, oh, okay, bye. And so I'm not going to waste my time, and I'm going to go talk to other people. And that are in my
Who was trying to talk to Ozzy in the pantry that wasn't letting you in?
not that they weren't like letting me in, but there was like a group, like it was almost like all of red team. I think it may have, I don't know, I didn't see exactly who was in there. I opened the door and like they were just like, we're in a conversation type of, that's kind of like how it came across. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I went up again, and it wasn't the same person. It was another person. So a red team was just taking turns going in and talking to Ozzy in the pantry. And
Right.
Ozzy never left the pantry until he went to the red vote. And then when he's at the red vote, of course, we get a little more time to strategize, but we don't get to talk to Rocky, or not Rocky, sorry, Ozzy at all.
Oh,
And
okay. I didn't know
yeah, we
that.
kind of just come into the, yeah, we just came into the vote. Um, and so like, and you see a little bit there of Marcelo and not Marcelo, Taylor and AJ, I think it was there. And in that episode, they were talking about, should we tell Ozzy? And I think Taylor says, well, do we know what Ozzy's relationship with Kira is? And he goes, I don't know. And she goes, and I don't know, and in retrospect, I think if Ozzy did know, he would have told me 100%. Um, and so it's so interesting how like those facets of the game, like play the game before it plays you, you know?
Absolutely. That's the name of the
But
game.
yeah, so Rory came and he asked for it, and so I was like, oh gosh, stuff is going crazy. And I gave it to him. And then I heard he was walking around with on his chest. Taylor actually tells me that when we're together, and I'm like, what? And I was like, and then I literally tell her exactly like what is that? I was like, that's just a reveal vote. And I didn't even like realize I did that. And but she had known as well. So it's also, he was screaming out that it was a reveal vote. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah. It was just so interesting because that power seems to be making its way all over the cast at this point. So um
Yeah.
just wanted
Plain hot
to
potato.
plain hot potato, yes. So let's get into it, Kira. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of a 3-2-1 vote here. 3 votes on yourself, 2 votes on CJ, and then 1 vote on AJ being you. Um Obviously, I think from your reaction, you were blindsided at this, right?
Yeah, I thought I was like in okay standing. I thought I was on a team with all my allies, like every single person there. It's not like we were all part of an alliance, but I had had conversations and I was aligned with every single one of them. And so I thought it was going to be between AJ, who had just come in, potential revolving door, and CJ, who has just been putting a target on himself all game long. He's never tried to take the target off himself. He's never tried to slow down or take a back seat. Even when he was safe, he like decided to give his idol to Josh, and kind of like put himself into the vote. And then also saying the little speech he had. So he was definitely nervous. And I mean, both, and here's the other thing, now they're both asking me for my idol. And I definitely think I could have dealt with those conversations better, in terms of like, I guess the point that I was trying to get across is, I'm not handing you my idol. If in the moment I feel like the votes are going to land on you, and I need to use it, I am open to playing it on you, but it has to be the right move for me. It's my idol, you know? And even with CJ, and me and him being so close. And it felt very early in the game at that point, and I didn't want to just hand it to him. And then I'm a potential target in the next rounds because I gave him an idol. But if I really thought that it was going to land on him, because eventually um, they say it's going to be AJ. We're down for doing AJ, and I believe them. Obviously, it's not the truth. I'm thinking, okay, I got a win-win. I don't have to give my idol. I don't have to use my idol because I know my threat level has gone up and it's skyrocketed even with finding the idol. But secondly, I don't have to give it to CJ. I don't have to blow up my game. I don't have to vote for for CJ. I did not want to vote for CJ. There was a point there where I was talking to Taylor and I was contemplating it and I was like, okay, Kira, like get out of your head a little bit. Like, what's the best move for you? And in that same stead, knowing CJ as a person, I just knew that he would take that really personally and he would have been really upset at me for doing that. And I did not want to do that to him. But unbeknownst to me, feelings were not mutual, which I is unfortunate.
Before we get into that, I want to ask you about AJ coming back into the game. You
Yeah.
mentioned the revolving door situation. Um, I think during the episode at one point you said we don't know what he could be coming back in with. Like he might have a power. We've seen that in the org. Somebody has come back in the game with a power, a hefty power. And we've seen in other shows that people come back with a little bit of protection, right? So I thought that was a great thing for you to say, potentially vote out AJ.
Hmm.
Um, was AJ but earlier in our conversation, you mentioned AJ deflecting your name being out there. So I was
Yeah.
wondering, was AJ your preferred vote if it weren't CJ? Or obviously you didn't want to vote out CJ at that point, but did you want to vote AJ out specifically for that reason?
No, and the only difference between like how I felt about voting AJ out versus CJ was the bond that we had had prior to this game. I I felt really aligned with AJ at that point. We were trying to get a group of us together and AJ and I had actually sat down and he had it was this was after Billy's vote and he had told me that Ollie threw my name out and he was like, "No, I'm not doing that." And you know what? Let me just for a second give AJ some props. Like the way that he can come into a conversation during votes and someone can say, I want to vote this person out. And he can say in his own way that if someone else were to say the same thing, I don't know if it would be taken the same way. But he says, like, no, I promised them that I wouldn't vote for them. And, I can't do that. And, and, but it doesn't make you feel like you can't trust him. It almost makes you, the way he says it and the way he holds himself, it makes you think, wow, stand up, dude. Like, so I know if I'm close with him, he's going to do the same for me. So it almost pulls you in rather than pushing you away, where I think some people will say that and they're like, oh, they're always going to work with this person. Are they going to do this for me?
Right.
Right? Um,
AJ
and
seems
so
more
he,
malleable. He's willing to work
correct.
with you.
Exactly. And he's I'm willing to like vote whichever way you want, but that specific person I wouldn't be willing to vote. And it's like, okay, well, you're also giving me information. You're letting me know. You're not just saying, oh yeah, sure, I can vote that person, and then not.
Right.
Um, but so he pulls me into the bedroom that he had, and he was like the I was in the speakeasy, and the next room down the hall was his, and he like kind of pulls me in. And I was like, oh my gosh, we haven't really been able to talk, and I think we had like good energy from each other, and we felt like an unspoken hey, like I would like to work together type of thing. And he tells me about Ollie, and I was like, oh my gosh, Ollie. And so him and I get talking, and we lay out like literally he wrote down in his notebook and we wrote out like all the players that were still in the game at that point and we were like okay who do we want to work with and we picked out Taylor, Rocky, himself, myself, and then we talked about like our alternates, right? Like we want a little bit of a bigger group, but we wanted to bring people in that we can like work with, but also be ready to knock off when it does get smaller or if we have to. And so the three people that kind of came into that rotation were Marcelo, um, Josh, and I brought in CJ, right? So and I brought it up and I was like, the good thing about Josh and CJ, and it doesn't have to be both, but it could be one, is that people are going to be ready to vote them whenever, right? But if we bring them in with us and they want to work with us, then they're working with us and not against us with how chaotic their play is. And he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, I like that idea." And even though I'm saying that, I'm the me and CJ's game plan coming in to this. We had a couple minutes in the very beginning. We said, let's play both sides of the house. and you make your allies, you play your game, I'm going to play my game, and then let's find a way where we come into the middle. We won't vote each other's names, but unless it's literally between my name and your name. But and I even said to him, okay, have you told people that you played in a game before? And he goes, yes. And I said, okay, how about this? Just so that you feel better with me, and even though we are going to be apart, you feel like we're still together. I'm not going to tell people that I've ever played. So if you ever feel like I'm doing you completely dirty, that's what you can use. If you think I'm going to come against you, that is how you can blow up on me. I don't know. Anyway, so I won't get too much into that yet, but with AJ, I didn't want to vote him out. And I knew that voting him out would fracture a little bit of my relationships with that core group that we were talking about, Rocky, Taylor, and I think Marcelo had ended up coming into the fold there, and AJ and myself. And I didn't want to fracture that, but also, like I said before, it was playing on my heartstrings a little bit with CJ.
Yeah. Any thought of voting out Taylor at all?
No, I really liked Taylor. I really wanted to work with her. So watching back the episode, I'm really curious to find out what she was trying to tell me that I wasn't picking up on. I'm not great at reading between the lines. Most people have to be like straight up and tell me what they want. I thought that we were like communicating really well. I thought we were working together. I thought within that vote I had created stronger bonds with her, which is like, and even like the night before, me and her, we were like not even talking game but just talking like personal stuff, and I thought that we were cool. And and we're still cool, but like in the game, she wasn't either feeling the same way that I was feeling about her, or she had some reservations, and maybe I had some unspoken reservations, that when I was putting when I was putting off energy, she didn't feel the energy that made her feel like, okay, this person's with me. So, I did, if I was able to, I think for me, other than AJ and CJ, I would have pushed for Marcelo, but with the people that were there, I didn't think that that was going to be viable.
And he was safe as well.
Oh yeah, duh, never mind. He was safe. That yeah, going into it, I was like, okay, maybe we can get Marcelo out, but then he
Right.
wins because he
Yeah.
beats my ass.
Yeah.
King. So
Close, very close though.
yeah, no cigar though.
No cigar. It's interesting. Yeah, you mentioned you there, and I remember Taylor mentioning in a confessional that you just weren't picking up what she was putting down. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see what, later on when I talk to Taylor what that was.
Hmm.
Um, my what I thought it was your willingness maybe not to 100% say that you're going to vote out CJ.
Right.
Um, but
Yes.
we'll never know until we talk to her. Um, okay, so 3, 2, 1. Taylor, Marcelo, and CJ end up voting you out. They obviously aren't able to clue in Ozzy because what you mentioned of the pantry and then going right to the red vote. And they did not clue in AJ either. Um, but
No, I think AJ knew, but he made the decision
okay,
of CJ.
he made the decision. Oh, okay.
I think so because he like they had, I think Taylor had talked to him about it, saying, and then he said, well, should we tell Ozzy?
Okay. You're right. You're right. You're right. I remember that. So obviously the 3 votes on you. CJ at the elimination is pretty emotional at this one, obviously. Uh, what were your like feelings in the moment? And looking back on it, how do you feel about the whole CJ willing to kind of just vote you out to save his own ass here?
Yeah. So I think that in the moment, I was worried because I wasn't entirely sure that AJ had something that was going to save him. And here's the part where it comes into me not using my idol. Because I'm so like, and this is on, also the credit doesn't go necessarily to me and thinking of AJ having something. CJ had brought that up to me. And then I was like, oh. And so now this was so like stuck in my head. And I was like, okay, if he does use it, I'm using mine. Right. And so we're sitting there and Papa says, if anyone has an advantage that they would like to play, for now and ever hold your peace. And I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And I felt like the pause went on forever. And I was like out of the corner of my eye, just waiting for like some movement. And nothing happened. And I said, okay, all right, AJ's going home. Because with those conversations I had before, it sounded like CJ was going to do it, Marcelo was going to do it, and so was Taylor. And clearly they didn't. And I think the first vote, seeing my face, immediately I knew that I was going to be going home. And I think the second one, like I kind of just closed my eyes and I was like, stay calm. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I'm like trying to hold up hope. And then the third one, and and obviously I know that I have gone. And I vote AJ, and the other two votes are on CJ. And in this moment, I have no idea that CJ said a single thing. I'm thinking Marcelo and Taylor literally just like played me like a fiddle and like hat off to them. And they did. They did in actuality. Like CJ blew up my game and kind of like didn't even talk about how I was threatening in this game. Just talked about like how well I've played in another game. But only basing that on that, yeah, I've been lying about being in other games. I stood on the stump for a long time, but then I rocked out. You know what I mean? Like I played a good game, but I was out like I think I was the sixth or seventh person out. But making it sound like I'm this awesome player, which I appreciate, but not in that way. And
And he wasn't even in like that game with you at all to play with
no,
you.
he didn't even know my gameplay at all. The only part of the game we played together was when he saw me in challenges when we were going against each other, and then when we were going against each other in the battle back. That was it. So I don't know. So that's kind of so my feelings in that moment, I'm just like flabbergasted. Um, Marcelo and Taylor did a phenomenal play on, taking my head off. And I just stood up, and for me, like I don't necessarily like being emotional in front of other people. And so I was just doing everything I could to keep my composure. And I think if it had not been such a blindside and I didn't think that I was as secure as I was and amongst allies, I think, I probably would have gave some hugs and talked to some people. But in the way in which it happened, I just felt, I was like, what did I do to make you feel like this was the right move? Like, I was like, did I mess up? What did I do wrong? Um, and that was hard. And so I get up, I don't talk to anybody. I say, good game. And I'm like holding my tears back and I walk out and it's funny because they see me ask like which door and they say down there and I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be going. And I come back and I'm like, where the fuck do I go? How do I get out of here? And I was just so frustrated. And I watched Ollie's interview with you, which love the man. But two completely different energies going on.
He was trying to make you feel better, and you were just like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, well, he was like, Jared, we're gonna have so much fun in the jury house. And I'm like, Ollie, shut up. Like I'm there with my sunglasses on, like sobbing, holding my blanket, and
Read the
like,
room,
read
bro.
the
Read the
room,
room.
bro. um, but yeah, so that's kind of like how I was feeling in the moment, and the pre-jury was super inviting and welcoming, and I also didn't want any hugs from them either. Not that it's them, it's just I'm not, when I'm crying and when I'm upset, don't hug me. I'm sorry.
Oh, God.
Um, but now I guess to how I feel having watched it, post game, at the end of everything after finale, CJ's talking about it to someone else and is talking about it as if he's proud and of that move and what he did. And so that really upset me. And we had a talk while we were there, and emotions were high for sure. And I get it's just a game, and all of you who are watching are like, come on, it's just a game, it's not personal. No, that felt personal. At least on my end, that's how it felt. Like, he didn't have to do that. He could have said what he said, put the target on me, fine. Then, because of the relationship that we have and how we told each other that we were going to play in the game, he had the option and chose not to. But tell me, hey, Kira, just so you know, I dropped this bomb. I know it's going to make you a little upset, but here's what we can do. You use your idol on me, or I don't know, like, we could have used, I could have used my idol on me, and instead of him putting his vote on me, he would have put his vote on AJ. And then so we're at a tie. And then either people deadlock or we force, and I guess he can see that maybe they all vote him out, but I would have been a part in that vote also. And I don't know. It is what it is. And so I think there was other avenues to go. I'm not saying he should have like given up his game for me, but I also don't know that, you know, the way he did it was in the best character. I think I come into these games playing as a version of myself, and I think he comes into these games playing as a character, as a villain, and he wants to do the biggest, baddest, dirtiest stuff. Which, power to you. A game respects game, but I definitely think in future games that I hopefully have the opportunity to play. I definitely am going to be more cautious for players like that, and damn, if we see each other in a game together again, I think that will be interesting. Um, so watching it back on TV, I it brought every single emotion back. Like, I had thought that, over and done with. CJ and I are talking again. It's not exactly the same, but he's reaching out to me and I'm trying to reach out to him here and there. And then I watch it and I'm just like all of a sudden back down to feeling down and low. And it's hard because of how much trust I had put in him, and I know that I shouldn't have. And watching Shelly say, honestly, shame on Kira for like thinking that she could have trusted him. And you know what? You're absolutely right. Shame was on me. And hey, call me a fool the first time, but the second time, it won't happen again, hopefully. Um, and so it was really, really hard to watch. I think the past like week or so has probably been tougher for me because of watching that and the feelings that I've felt. And I definitely have reached out to CJ, and CJ even reached out to me before the episode aired. And, he definitely, you know, I think cares about me still, but I still don't know if we see eye to eye on what happened, and I don't know if we ever will. So, I mean, agree to disagree, no super hard feelings, but like, to expect someone to trust you in the same way, I think is a lot to ask, and hopefully time can mold that over. And it's more of me. I he doesn't have to prove anything to me. It's me having to like get through that hill of like the trust and the bond that I thought we had clearly wasn't what it was. And so I need to reevaluate.
And listen, totally, everybody plays the game obviously differently. And you know, it was brutal to watch. I'll tell you that. I felt for you. But there were so many great things that you had throughout the season that I think you can hold your head high with and take those into the next one.
Yes.
Um, I've been blindsided before, and it never feels great.
No, no. I always said to myself, I'd rather be blindsided than be told I'm going out. Um,
I think you should take this one as a compliment, to be honest with you.
yeah, no, and I do. I take it as a compliment from all the other players, except maybe for CJ, because I think it was more of a self-preservation, like dog eat dog. And I think it's not what you say, it's how you say it type of thing. And I don't know, but beyond that, again, game respects game. I don't hold like it against him so much as a person as I do as a player. Like, stuff happens. But on the front of specifically Marcelo and Taylor, that was an amazing play. That was they really got me on it, and I think I was doing well, and I think I was creating bonds with everybody at that point. And so I did have flexibility of I could kind of go with anyone. Obviously, I had my number one in CJ that I was always trying to like find who I could work with and pull him into that fold. Um, and that was a lot of my game too. I think throughout my whole game, I had a conscious effort of I know CJ's on the other side, but I always kept coming back to that same goal that we had to distinguish of okay, I'm making good relationships with these people. These people want to create a group. How does CJ fit into that? How do I think they're going to want to work with CJ? Um, and I don't know if he was doing that same thing. I think he was really playing his own game, which I can't fault him for that. I should have been playing my own game. We should have just been playing separate games and seeing where we landed out. And you know, you live, you learn. And one thing I love about these games is you take experiences away from it, you meet people, and you find love in people that like you've only met for a couple days and you've gotten through some crazy shit. And I think I can definitely say that that happened this season.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this in terms of finding like a final two, like day one, it's tough to find. I'll say that. I've only actually found one in an org that has been true to me throughout the entire course of the game. So it's really tough. It's really hard. And um, yeah. But besides that, Kira, I've I have another question for you. One more game question before we move on to the entire experience. What was your favorite part? And the last question, game question, you obviously are voted out with the pendant in your pocket. Was there any thought to passing that out to somebody? Or were you so shocked in that moment that you were like, I'm taking this shit as a souvenir?
It was neither. I think with being so shell shocked, and like you said, like in the interview, it was like I saw a ghost, and that's quite literal. I saw the ghost of my game, my potential game, just like walk out the fucking room like Casper. So I forgot it was
I'm
in
gonna
my damn
clip that.
pocket. Yeah, I forgot it was in my dang pocket, and it wasn't until I was sitting down with all the people from pre-jury and Ali in the jury house, and someone was like, "Oh, I like someone said, "Oh, did you like gift your idol to someone? Who did you give it to?" And I was like, "Oh, fuck. It's in my pocket." And I like take it out, and did not cross my mind. The only thing crossing my mind was how fast can I walk away from these people so I can like figure out what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see, I guess, in the coming episodes if that gets re-hidden into the game.
Mhm. In
Nope.
retrospect, I would have given it to Ollie. Like if I had remembered and it was on my mind, or not Ollie, I'm sorry. I always, for whatever reason, Rocky, Ollie, and Ozzy, I always say the wrong names, but I know who the hell they are, so I love you guys. But I would have given it to Rocky.
Okay.
I wouldn't have given it to anyone that I was sitting with. Maybe Ozzy, but I just was so blown away. But yeah, I
Yeah.
probably would have given it to Rocky,
Well,
not CJ.
Kira, not CJ. Yeah.
I'm just
Okay.
kidding.
Kind of. Kind of not. But
I mean, In that moment, I probably, if I remember, maybe would have given it to CJ, but knowing what I know now, I would not.
Right. Um, well, when you were voted out, did you have any inkling of who the third person was? Obviously, you said you didn't think it was CJ. And you probably weren't told that until future jurors get brought into the game, into the jury house. But did you think it, who did you think it was, AJ or Ozzy?
I thought that I think it was AJ and
Okay.
that Ozzy, what honestly, like there were, I can't even now looking at the numbers, the only way they make sense in the personalities would have been CJ, but I just think I was so blind to it. Like I just like could not fathom it.
Right.
Um which really is just like poor judge of game character on me. Um, Even though like I saw him knock one after the other and do these like crazy moves. Um, I just didn't I thought that our alliance meant more, and I guess it did. So it is what it is.
It is what it is. And let's talk about something more fun. We've
Yeah.
been going for a while now, Kira, but I want to ask you, like I ask everybody else, what was your favorite part of the entire experience? Could be during the game, could be the shenanigans after.
There's so much that I loved about this game, but and they don't really show it. So like for the viewers, you've missed out. But for all of us who were there, production included, everyone knows how many things I ran into. Like I had a couple different names. I had Kira car crash. I
Are you
had Kira.
clumsy?
Yeah, I'm clumsy as shit. I was walking into walls that don't move. Um
Then
I like
maybe you thought you really were a ghost.
I was a ghost. I am Casper. And CJ is the Ghostbuster.
Oh
um
jeez. Oh jeez.
and so well actually great. CJ, Marcelo, and Taylor are the Ghostbusters. Let's get a picture of it, throw it up there right now.
I'll
They're
make
the
that. I'll make that.
Ghostbusters. Yes. And so I like there was this one point where we're getting up for a challenge. It's the one where they were talking about butt plugs.
Hmm.
And they like split us into groups and they said, okay, the people who are going to be seeing the stencil, stand up and follow so and so. You're going to this place. So and then so on and so forth. And so when it's my turn, as the person looking at the board, um, they say, okay, stand up and walk out. But someone before me had like stood up and like done like a cool spin or like a cool like pose or whatever. And I was like,
Oh.
I want to do that. And I looked back to Ozzy and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do something. And he goes, oh, do it. And so I get up and I like do it's actually on the Patreon. So I don't want to go into it too much further so you can watch on the Patreon. So
Oh, little
Patreon, check
plug.
it out. Yeah,
Yes.
it's hilarious. But to give you a little bit of a spoiler, I eat shit. Okay. And it was just really funny. And that wasn't the only time I did stuff like that. I was constantly falling, tripping, or whatever. That's just a part of my daily life. Other than that, speaking of Ozzy, there were just these moments like we never really talked like strategic game necessarily, but every time, like whether we were in a group of people sitting downstairs chatting, or we were at a vote, or we were getting ready for a challenge and they were like telling us what was coming next, like we would just like something would happen and we would just like make direct eye contact. We were always on the same wavelength, and yeah, I have a lot of love for that dude. Um, Love for everybody all around, but there was just like this unspoken like
Yeah.
not even that I was looking to find his eyes, but I was just like looking and then I would find his eyes and he would find mine and it kept happening. So I love that was very special to me. Um, I don't know. In terms of me getting voted out, because I'll be real, like I really, like I've said, I took it hard. I took it hard. And people were very understanding that like I didn't really want to talk very much. I didn't want hugs. I didn't want to be consoled. Um I kind of was just being the polar opposite of what my personality usually is. I was around people, they were all having a conversation, but I didn't want to be partaking in the conversation. I was just sitting there. And in those moments it's kind of hard because like it sometimes in bigger groups like that and you're going through something like you kind of feel more alone. But every single person like just kept checking in on me and like saying, "Kira, you okay?" Trying to like take my mind off it, like do something funny or like ask me something funny and like try to make me smile. And little bit by little bit, I started feeling more of myself. And I think, just to name a few people, Ollie, of course, just being Ollie, you can't help it.
Wow.
Billy was really, I think he also had like very strong emotions also. And so I felt like
Yeah.
he kind of was understanding what I was going through. Not that anybody else wasn't, and not that anybody else didn't feel that big pain, but he had a pretty gnarly blind side also from someone he thought he could trust.
Right.
And um and then Adam. Oh man, do I feel for Adam. He was robbed entirely. And I was really rooting for him when I was, even though like I had known what happened in the boomerang, I was like, will he do it? Will he do it? I know he's not because obviously I know who walked in, but like he was so close, even closer than when I heard through the grapevine. Like he was really almost there. And you know what? Sometimes it's just not in the cards for you, but silver lining of all of it, I got to meet Adam, and he kind of, Bostonian man, saying fuck every single minute, and that's also very much in my vocabulary also. And we were just like standing outside, and he goes, "Man, I wanted to work with you, bro." And I was like, "Fuck, I wish you stayed in so we could have," and he was really looking out for me too because I know he also took it hard. He had been going through a lot, and he really wanted to play this game, and he is a gamer, and he likes to play, and he was going through a lot, especially in that moment in time.
Yeah.
um I hope all the best for him. I hope he's doing well now, and but I was really blessed to meet him, and then just all around everybody was really trying to help me out. Even shout out Melissa. She saw
Mm.
that I like when I'm upset, like I just put me to work. Get me to do something. And she was like, "Kira, can you help me like make lunch?" And this is the lunch literally right after I'm voted out. I'm like, fucking making lunch for these people, blah, blah, blah. And she gives me the knife and the lettuce. And someone kink, kink, kink. And when they all come in and they're coming to get their food, I don't know who it was that said it because I just kept looking down because I could not make eye contact with anyone. Or else I'd start crying probably. And someone's like, who gave Kira the knife? But yeah, it's so hard to narrow down to one. I know I just gave you a bunch and there's so many more,
Mm.
but literally every moment, yes, there were the downs, but there were so many more highs, and it was an incredible experience. Production was amazing. It was great.
Well, it's awesome to hear that, Kira. I appreciate you coming back on the podcast to talk about everything that happened.
Mm,
Um, and we this isn't the last that we'll see of you in the season. Obviously, you are a juror. So we will
mhm.
see you on finale night and obviously questioning, and you will be voting for a winner. So I look forward to seeing what your decision and all that good stuff.
It's gonna be an amazing next couple of episodes, and I'm excited for all of you guys to follow along, and I'm excited to see the part of the game that I didn't get to see. That's like the fun part of this. And um, you know, I wonder if like watching the rest of the season, me knowing who I voted for to win, I wonder if this could change my mind or prove my point.
Awesome. Well, Kira, appreciate you coming back on. And I think this is a good time to stop the exit interview.
All right. Thank you. It's great seeing you, and